Shalom, shalom, and once again, shalom. This is Doc Hertz of God's Vision Ministry, and want to talk a moment, amen, about storms. Yes, we're going to talk about storm. And I think it's really appropriate because in this January 2026, there is a storm that we're in the midst of that's crossing the United States. And when we think about storms, people say that you're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or you're going into a storm. So we're in the midst of a storm. And storms takes different shapes. You can have a storm of the weather. You can have a storm of family, situation, storms in your mind. And how do you deal with the storms? I want to take a look in the book of Mark, the fourth chapter, and we'll look at the fourth verse. No, the fourth chapter, the book of Mark, and we're going to look at the 35th through the 41st verse. We're going to look at these storms. According in the book of Mark, it says that, and the same day when the evening was come, he said unto them, let us pass over unto the other side. This is Jesus talking to his disciples. And the 36th verse says, and when they had sent them away, the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. The 38th verse says, and he was in the hinder parts of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And it says that they awake him, and they said unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? It says, and he arose and he rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, peace, be still. It says, and the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Now, when you think about this, that there was a great calm, it's amazing to see that Jesus was asleep on a pillow in the midst of a storm with the disciples and the other little ships around. And I believe that in your life that there were storms. But what I love about Jesus is that how he can rest in the midst of a storm. And I remember another story about a storm and the disciples being upon the water. It says that there was a great storm that was taking place, and Jesus was not in this particular ship. It says, and the disciples looked out and they thought that it was a ghost that was on the water. They were in fear. And it says that Jesus spoke out and said, fear not, for it is I. And it is recorded that Peter said, if it be thou, biddest thou me to come? And Peter began to walk upon the water. The story goes to say, as the winds and the wave began to be boisterous, that he began to look at the elements that even as he was walking toward Jesus, and he began to sink. And Jesus reached down and pulled him up. And they both went into the ship safely. Well, what amazed me about both stories of the storms, that Jesus was in one ship physically, and he was out of the other ship physically. But realizing that in the midst of your storm, that Jesus, how he handles it. He rests in the midst of a storm. He can sleep in the midst of a storm. And when the storm is raging, Jesus walks upon the water. Not only in the physical, but also in the spiritual. Because he spoke to the waves and say, "Be thou to behave." He spoke unto the servant and to the disciples and said, "Come on out. Keep your eyes on me." And you can walk also on the water. Physical manifestations of Jesus' life, that he walks upon the very waters of the storm, and that he rests on the very storms of life. And whether he's in the boat or out the boat, his very presence gives you the ability to decide whether you're going to keep your eyes on him and walk through the storms of life. Or are you going to just be in the boat knowing that he's here, and if he's with us, everything's going to be all right. And he's given us the power to speak unto the elements and say, "Peace, be still." As this storm begins to pass across the United States, I pray that people will find grace and mercy in the sight of God. I pray that every church door that may be closed on tomorrow, that the hearts of the people will be open to hear a word from God, knowing that the storms of life don't last always, and that God is going to bring you through more than a conqueror. The storms of life, whether they be mental storms, physical storms, spiritual storms, God is well able. And I speak into your life, peace, be still. And I command you to walk upon the waters. Keep your eyes on Jesus the Christ, the Messiah, the Messiah. Yes, he has his arms stretched out, open wide, waiting on you. All you have to do is receive him and believe him, and he'll bring you out more than a conqueror. And with that, be blessed as you make it through life's storm. Shalom, shalom, and once again, shalom.